Okay, everybody, if you're a Reddit user, or maybe even if you're not, you know that TLDR stands for too long, didn't read. Usually if someone makes a really long post on Reddit, it's a courtesy to put a TLDR at the end with a 1 or 2 sentence summary of what the basic idea of the post was. So, because I know that not everyone has the time or the inclination to listen to the whole Adventist Millennial podcast, I thought it would be a good idea to do kind of a TLDR of what I talk about in the episode. It could be more accessible if you don't have time, and as a video, it could be a commercial for the whole, listening to the whole episode, however you want to look at it. I will say go subscribe and listen to both though, because it will be totally worth it. Okay. What is the number one thing that makes Adventists weird? What makes us unique to other Protestant Christian denominations? Is it that we're vegetarian? Everyone seems to at least know about that one. Is it that we keep Saturday as the Sabbath? Is it that we don't believe you go straight to heaven or hell when you die? Is it that we have like this culty affection for Ellen White? No, none of these are the crux of our weirdness, if you ask me. The most important thing that makes us different, I think, is the Great Controversy. You guys, this goes so deep. Maybe the concept of the Great Controversy is elementary knowledge to you if you've been an Adventist for a super long time, but trust me, once we've covered this ground or recapped it for some of you, and we head straight down the rabbit hole, boy, hold on to your magical underwear, because it's going to open all kinds of crazy curtains. Wait, is that Mormons? Magical underwear. Anyway, what is the Great Controversy? I think a good starting place is the story of Job in the Bible. The narrative goes that Satan comes to God and they get in this discussion about this human called Job. When God points out how good and faithful Job is, Satan says, yeah, sure, whatever. That's only because he has a silver spoon, because you coddle him, and you give him too much stuff. If you ripped all of that away, for sure he'd turn against you. So God gives Satan permission to wreak havoc on Job's life, and the whole book is about Job trying to come to grips with why this is happening to him. But at the same time, he never turns on God. The majority of the book is Job agonizing and questioning why such injustices have just been dumped on him for no reason, and to be honest, this is a lot like what life is like for most of humanity. Our lives here on earth are filled with pain and suffering, and we're left wondering, why? The argument between God and Satan in the beginning of Job gives us a hint as to what's really going on. In Isaiah 14:12-14, it says, "How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning! How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations! For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will be like the Most High." The unique way that Adventism has understood the Great Controversy is simply this. God created a perfect reality where love and unselfishness reigned. All the angels and the created beings were happy and lived in harmony. But Lucifer, the covering cherub, as Ezekiel 28:14 says, got angry that he didn't have the same status as Jesus, who was part of the Godhead. Lucifer wanted to be a creator rather than a creation, and he started telling all the angels that God was a selfish authoritarian who was lying to everybody about what real freedom was. His claim was that God wanted to oppress his creations, and that his law of love was a farce, because it gave Jesus superiority over Lucifer. There's a book called Patriarchs and Prophets, and on page 40 it says, "The preference shown to Christ, he declared an act of injustice both to himself and to the heavenly host. And he announced that he would no longer submit to this invasion of his rights and theirs." So this dispute over whether God was a tyrant and a liar created a huge problem in heaven. Lucifer smeared God's character, and so God was forced to defend himself. Like we see mirrored in the book of Job, instead of punishing or killing Lucifer, which really would only confirm the accusations, God gave him enough rope to hang himself, basically. Lucifer said, "I have a better way to live, better than the way God has created." And God said, "Okay, go ahead, let's see it." And God created earth, placed Adam and Eve in the garden, and the showcase began. By granting humanity the free will to choose God or Lucifer's way, all of creation would see, in practice, who was telling the truth, and whether God was a tyrant or his creations were truly free. In order to maintain humanity's ability to love, God had to grant them freedom. because you can't force someone to love, which meant that he also had to give them the option to reject him and follow Lucifer. But God was willing to do this. He was willing to be rejected, smeared, misunderstood, and even hated so that we could have free will. He could have created us without the ability to do wrong, but that would also take away our ability to be real and autonomous. Like Pinocchio, we needed to be real and not be made of wood. And all of this is why we live in the world that we do. Yes, it's painful and full of suffering, but it's also free. So free, in fact, that we can reject and hate the God that gave us life. And the good news is, when the experiment is over, the pain will be over too. When everyone is convinced, one way or the other, selfishness or selflessness, the suffering, the death, and everything corrosive that Lucifer unleashed on humanity will end. But you guys, this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you're smart, and I know you are, this concept has left you with more thoughts and more questions. And lucky for you, I did a whole podcast on this topic. So go check it out. I'm going to keep going deeper and digging more into these philosophical questions on the podcast and in these TLDR videos. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe and listen to the podcast. And if you're sad that this wasn't a funny video like usual, head over to Instagram @SDA Millennial because I post jokes on there every day.